Hello, and welcome back to VR for Work. We're recording today's episode on June 2nd, 2020. My name is Rick, and I'll be your host here today, VR for Work. At VR for Work, we take a look at the programs, the platforms, and the applications that are geared to helping us be more productive and efficient while in a VR head-mounted display, an HMD. In fact, VR for Work uses one of these very platforms you're watching today to do this recording. It's a platform called Spaces, and anybody with a head-mounted display, Oculus Quest like I use, can get this application today and do what I'm doing in the comfort of their home, but look like they're in a huge auditorium with a screen the size of a wall behind them. These are some of the promises that VR has for work today. And we're going to examine one of those platforms today. That's a meeting and collaboration platform. So not so much jumping in and typing up a document or responding to email or creating a PowerPoint, but this is for gathering together, working through an agenda, and doing work from the perspective of actually meeting, making decisions, creating work plans, and then being able to act on them. Oftentimes, work can't proceed without that kind of effort being given to it. And so I hope you join me today as we take a look at Vive Sync. So I'm going to grab my monitors and move across the screen or the stage to the other side of the screen. And I'll put that there, and I've got to go back, and Spaces gives us a couple of different ways to monitor where we are in the environment and to be able to manage and control our PC desktop from these facilities, and then actually change the camera views to make it as comfortable as possible for you, the viewer, to see what's going on. And so with that, let's jump in. And today we're going to give an overview of HTC's Vive Sync. So this is HTC, who made the Vive head-mounted display, also makes the Cosmos and the Vive Focus. And they've created a platform that's available to you to use, to jump into today, using any of their products, obviously. But again, I'm able to get into it with my Oculus Quest headset while I'm connected via my link cable to my PC and emulating an Oculus Rift. So what is Vive Sync? Well, it's a meeting and collaboration platform, as we had mentioned. It works on all major VR platforms, although I put Windows mixed reality with a question mark there because I did not see it listed and I have no way of testing it. So I'm just unsure of that at the moment. It is available on Viveport, which is HTC's subscription service, which is how I came across it, or as a PC download from off of the Vive Sync site. It's VR focused, but you can use that download on your desktop or laptop to actually join meetings. It has one of the better avatar creation systems using your smartphone that I've seen, and you'll get to see an example of my avatar. A very idealized, kind of close to that uncanny valley realism to it, but I really found it pleasant. Users book and share appointments and rooms, and it gives you 3 similar layouts to choose from. Users have a tablet, kind of like you might see me with right here, where I have a tablet in front of me that represents my desktop. But in Sync, users get some additional functionality that we'll go over. You can have up to 20 users in a meeting at a time, and you can connect cloud content hosted on a given platform. In my case, it was OneDrive. And so I connected Vive Sync to a OneDrive folder that I populated in advance of the meeting, and then I could bring the content of that folder into the meeting with me to share it with the people uh, in the meeting environment. You can bring files on demand from the cloud, like I'd mentioned, or connected to a PC. So you can also make that connection using the Vive Sync client that might be running on the PC, connect to a folder on the PC, and bring in content. You can then bring in PDFs, PowerPoints, images, videos, and 3D models into the space. One of the really neat features is that with the tablet that you're given, you're able to use your voice to transcribe notes during the meeting. So there might be 10 or 12 of us in that session, and I want to remind myself of something. I can use my tablet, invoke the voice transcription feature. It kills my mic to everybody else in the room, but then transcribes the note that I'm taking onto my tablet and saves it back up to that cloud storage. And then it also gives you kind of a 3D drawing tool that you can use, I imagine, to kind of share things with other people in the room or just to mark up 3D images with. And so there's a couple of steps to setting your meeting up. After you log in, you go to a meeting calendar page where there's a button for scheduling a meeting. You book one of the 3 rooms that it gives you, a sci-fi room, the bay room, or the cloud room. You schedule your meeting, you give it a name, date, time it starts, the duration, and then and then the room you're in, and then you book it, and then you're given a QR code, and then a room ID and password. And the idea behind the QR code is with the Vive Focus products and the Cosmos, you can actually use the camera on the front of the HMD to read that code off of a PC to jump into a meeting, which is kind of cool. Not able to do that with my Quest, so I kind of have to push it up, get that code, remember it, and then type it in when I get there. And then there's a couple of buttons here to go ahead and sync the files you might have waiting into the meeting prior to or in advance, and then also to retrieve things. So if you made a voice note, you can retrieve that from the meeting and sync it back up also. All right, with that, let's jump in. So I'm in my Quest here. I've started the recording, and I'm going to enable and click on the Oculus link and actually open up the Oculus Rift home, and I'm going to go to the virtual desktop there. And right here, you can see, I'll pause here a second. I had the web page open on my desktop, and the meeting that I had booked and scheduled that I'm going to go into, I get the code here. I just have to remember that. And then I'm going to go open up the Vive Sync application that I have on my laptop, and it'll open in VR. It knows I've got a headset connected, and therefore takes me into the kind of opening environment for Vive Sync. So you can see my controllers, and I'm brought into this nice cloud area. Now, there's a bit of a story I heard about this Two Bears Studio. So this was developed internally by HTC so that their studios in Taiwan and on the West Coast, I believe in San Francisco or Los Angeles, could meet together while they were working on VR products, hence Two Bears Studio. And they needed a place to do that. They developed Sync and then decided to release it. So when you first come in, you're greeted with your avatar. Now, this avatar was made in advance, connected to my account, and uploaded using my Android smartphone. And it identifies me, of course. Welcome, Rick. And you'll see my full body avatar in a second. So here I am. Like I said, a very good, I think, idealized representation, very slimming. And so you kind of get to see yourself before you go in the meeting. You can kind of use the recalibrate button to adjust your height and seated stance. It does seating very nice with the avatars. The environment you're in is kind of this naturalistic dome in the clouds. It's just a area to enter. I go into continue. and I'm brought immediately into the screen where I can put the room ID, excuse me, and password. All right, a couple of little settings. Again, most of the settings that you tend to given in these applications are not ones you tend to adjust or mess with. I will mention that the languages down here are interesting in that, again, you're doing voice dictation transcription, and I'm sure it has to know what language it's starting with for that to work. And so I'm going to put in the room ID. Fortunately, just 4 characters each, so I could kind of memorize those and put them in before I forgot. And click, and I'm going in. And in this particular meeting, I'm in the bay, what they call the bay, and it looks like a platform overlooking a modernistic Golden Gate Bridge. Now, I have to admit that when I did this recording, I had actually been in the room in advance. And so some of these things that you're seeing, like this letter floating off in the side, I had been in, kind of done a couple of things, gotten out to get the recording ready, and didn't click clear the room. So a little bit of an apology there, but everything kind of holds, obviously, that I'm going to show you. The only difference is the room had been occupied, and it's a bit of a mess when you walked into the room, I guess you can say. Okay, so here's the tablet, and I've clicked on the button that brings up kind of the beginner's guide to show you what all the buttons and features are in the tablet. So you have mute, you have settings, you have a hang up, leave meeting. In the middle panel, you get to see the content that's being shown in the meeting at that moment. And you may have noticed when we came into the room, there is a drive-in movie size screen that all the content gets shown to the participants of the meeting. There's a control bar at the very bottom. And, you know, it always defers out to the Vive controller. So this looks nothing like my Oculus controller, but all the buttons and the functions transferred very nicely to mine. I had no trouble figuring it out. The one main difference is where they have that round toggle button in the middle. In an Oculus environment, we're using the joystick. And then over on the left-hand side, you have cloud files, camera, private note, laser pointer, big mirror screen, draw, table, and team note. And we'll go over each of those during the demo here. Okay, we'll close that. And we'll go down here, take a look. This is kind of your tablet when you come in and get it. Just kind of shows you the time. We'll go over a couple of things. First thing I did was invoke the laser pencil so I could finish my drawing there. I'm just saying hi, and then we'll circle that. So it's kind of got this idea of kind of 3D writing in the air. We see that with a lot of these meeting products. So I'm just going down the buttons here. I've selected you can see the quick start guide that we looked at that kind of explains the tablet to you. There's a kind of a phone hang up icon for leaving the meeting. Over on the right-hand side, you can see we have cloud files. And when I click that in the center of my tablet, I get the cloud files that I had synchronized with that OneDrive folder, along with a couple of PDFs that Vive drops in there to give you an overview of the platform. So there's 3 files I dropped in and 3 files that Vive provided. All right, now I selected a video, and as I do, it instructs me to select share to play. So down here at the bottom of the tablet, there's a share, and then we're going to play the video. It'll show up in the tablet, and then I'm positioning the tablet in front of the big, what I call drive-in movie screen. And so we're playing this. And again, if all your participants were in here, again, it's really like the size of a drive-in movie that they'd be able to watch and listen. There's a laser pointer feature that you can pull out on the tablet, point around, indicate things, turn that on and off. There's a camera feature. in which your tablet then becomes like a big viewing screen on a selfie stick, and you can move that around and take pictures. And again, these files then you can delete, you can save it to the cloud, and that will synchronize back up to that synchronized folder that you had selected when you logged in. We had looked at the drawing tool. There's the capability to put a table kind of in the center of this rounded meeting platform, and you can select group size, right? So small if there's just 2 of you, and medium if there's maybe 3 or 4, and large for maybe 5 to 10. Extra large, I guess, when you get to that 10 to 20. Now, when you select table, it shows it up kind of as a empty line grid until you decide to share it, and then it becomes a solid table. And if you are actually sitting in an office in a chair, your avatar will actually be placed in a seated mode at the table. Now, I'm going to pause here. This is the gee whiz secret sauce to me for this platform. And it's this voice dictation of notes. So over here on the right, you see this little call out or this little icon that looks like a speech bubble. You press that, and then you point your pointer over this white space. And as it's saying, it's kind of giving you directions here. In my case, I would press and hold down my thumb joystick. And as I do, you get this sound and this pulsing outline around the notepad, indicating it's recording. And as it's recording, when you stop it, it will take a few seconds depending on how long a note you're capturing. And then it will transcribe that note here on the tablet. And there it is. Now, I would say it got a good 75, 80%. Sometimes, as we have said in previous videos, you know, the thing with moving to a voice dictation system is you have to speak very slowly, clearly, and distinctly. And that is something that I'm still practicing, but I'm getting better at, because in my estimation, voice transcription like this is the future for data and text input in VR. And so I can sync that note up. I can delete that note. I can add to that note. And I think that's really, really cool and helpful and efficient, right? And we're all about productivity and efficiency here at VR for Work. And so I pulled up another file, and we're just going to throw that up on the big screen next. This is a PDF, and a little help guide comes out to the side of the drive-in movie screen and kind of shows you how to scroll and zoom. The controls to move page to page are at the bottom of your tablet. And so as I click to move to the next page, and if other users are in the room and they have their tablets, they are able to follow along on their tablet also. So this function and feature, this tablet idea here, I think very, very powerful, very, very helpful for holding meetings, for collaborating, for tracking what you're doing, and for getting things done. So we've seen these features: the file, the camera, the voice note, the laser pointer, mirror to the big screen, the 3D air writing, the table. Now, one last thing here is Team Note. And Team Note is, if anybody in the meeting takes a team note, it's shared on the tablets for everybody else that's in the meeting. So again, another very helpful feature. Maybe we're talking about assignments, and I might do that as a team note so that everybody can kind of see a list of what they're responsible for, and then sync that up to the cloud. So for tracking later. And so that's kind of it. With Vive Sync, that shows you the long and short of it. I really found this a pleasant experience, a pleasant environment, and look forward to doing more in it. So let's go now to our assessment. So how is this for consumption and retention of information? And again, the very nature of VR and working in a head-mounted display and the lack of distractions and the focus you have during a specific given piece of work or effort is just inherent to the environment. So you're put in a pleasant environment like we had there at the Bay Room, and you've gotten away, rid of all the distractions in your own real life, and you're paying attention. And then from a consumption, having the tablet and having that synchronization of the files back and forth, I give this high marks. Uh, really enjoyed the experience. Production and efficiency. Again, I think, like we said with spatial, when you're in these VR meeting spaces, I don't think those are the environments, and they're not intended to be environments where you produce things. However, what you're producing in a meeting, right, are ideas and plans and efforts that are going to take place later. And so does this give you the kind of environment where those meetings can be productive and those meetings can be efficient? And again, yes, I think HTC is provided a good platform to start with, that they can build off of, and using things like the voice transcribed notes can grow and become even better. So again, flow, focusing on tasks and priorities. Again, you're in that meeting doing that thing alone. There's not, at first when I went in, I thought I was a little underwhelmed. When you go to the sci-fi and the cloud room, you're like, well, there's kind of nothing here. But actually, I think that's part of the um, flow element, where there is nothing to distract except from what you're doing in that meeting, right? If you can get into that meeting and knock out an hour meeting in a half an hour because you're focused on what's going on, then I think you've found it well worth your time. So yeah, I think efficiency and flow, as long as the meeting's planned well, high marks. Ergonomics, again, seated, standing, you can be in that room and in that space. Moving around is, I didn't actually show this, but you're using teleport. And not that there's a big space to move around in or go to. Again, keeping you focused on what you're doing. Social, you have up to 20 people in that room. You can speak to each other, share that team note. I think that's great. And collaboration, it's all about, that's what this space is for, is to collaborate. Value, well, right now, I don't see any pricing or cost to it. I imagine if you're an organization or you're going to be in there regularly with 10, 20 people, you're probably going to talk to HTC about some branding and maybe even some special considerations for file management and security. So you would have to contact the company. All right. Well, thank you for joining us for another episode here of VR for Work. We thank you for being with us. Hope you'll continue to tune in and see what we've got for you coming up. Thanks again. Be well, and we'll see you in the metaverse.